What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Fatboyz Dynasty Podcast, coming at you live on the Fantasy Holics Podcast Network over on YouTube. I'm Bo. That's Brent. Brent, week 2 in the books. Man, there's so much to talk about. There's panic buttons are getting pressed everywhere. We've got injury things happening. We've got backfields and wide receiver rooms that are just in total chaos. And we're going to try to dissect some of that tonight on this episode.
Absolutely. It was a crazy week. We saw a lot of people go to the IR. A lot of people that you thought was just something small wound up, leaving on crutches, and then 6 to 8 weeks and they're back. And then you see a guy that may have been retired come out of retirement and sign with the team. And then it was just a crazy week, been a crazy, couple of days. And like you said, we're going to try to break this down for you. But first, we got to get our bibs on.
It's time to eat. All right, Brent, it only seems like the right thing to do to go ahead and jump straight into these massive amounts of injuries that happen in week 2. We'll go through the list, then we'll kind of talk about some of them that are shockers here. So I tried to update this right before the cast went live, so hopefully this is the most current information out there. If it's not, then I apologize. Justin Jefferson left with a thigh injury, ended up being a thigh bruise. He's been limited at practice, but he is out there. Okay. Cooper Kupp, ankle injury and ended up in a walking boot. Doubtful, may hit on IR. I don't think he's officially been placed on it yet, but that very well may come towards the end of the week. Tajay Spears left with an ankle injury. He expects to play this week. Marshawn Lloyd has an ankle injury. He was placed on the IR. Tank Bigsby, shoulder injury. He's questionable for week 3. Isaiah Pacheco, one of the bigger ones here, broken fibula, I believe it was. He's on the IR. Tua Tagovailoa, another concussion, which is very sad to see. Hate to see that, Brent. But he was placed on the IR as well. Another one that was interesting, A.J. Brown tweaked his hamstring Friday night prior to this coming Monday game, where I've got to give some redemption shout-outs to my Falcons, and I'll do that in just a second. He's doubtful for week 3, Brent. So this injury they think may linger with him. They want to give that hamstring plenty of time to heal up with A.J. Brown. And then the last one I have, Evan Ingram also had a hamstring issue. He is also still questionable for this week. So those are some big names, some of the bigger names out there. Obviously, there were some more injuries out there, but those are some of the bigger ones, Brent.
Yeah, and then you also have Debo as well. I may have zoned that one out. But Ingram tweaked his during warmups, but was still tweaked it early enough to where he was ruled out, and they were able to replace it. And then my brain fart right now, the name you said right before Ingram, A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown on Monday, if you watched with the sound on, which I normally don't, so that's why I say that, he came out, and I guess he did an interview with somebody on ESPN prior to the game, and he said this is going to be multiple weeks he's going to be out. So it's looking like this is going to linger, and they're going to take time. I guess maybe they saw the writing on the wall, and that's why they went out and got Dotson. Maybe they did see some writing on the wall. Maybe he tweaked it or was already bothering him prior to the season, and now and we saw that pass game really take a hit without A.J. Brown. Smith looked phenomenal. Dallas Goedert saw, a garbage time target and a catch. That passing game is going to be something to watch, and I absolutely hate it. With A.J. Brown being out as a Hurts owner, they're going to lean on Saquon Barkley quite a bit, and with how much we've seen in Saquon Barkley, when they do lean on him, a lot of injuries show up on his block too. So this could end up kind of being the dismantle of the Eagles offense just from one player. So that's one to really keep an eye on, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it is worth noting, speaking of Saquon, if he doesn't drop a wide open catch, the Eagles end up winning Monday night's contest, and we're probably not as worried about that Eagles offense as what we are, just because they ended up losing to my Atlanta Falcons. But with that being said, you're right. You're going to need to see Devonta Smith step up. You're going to need to see Dallas Goedert improve. You're going to need to see, Jahan Dotson be relevant for these Eagles not to stumble for a few weeks without A.J. Brown, because it was apparent that they missed him out there as well. So, let's talk about these injury issues and what they mean for a few key positions. Let's start with the Rams wideout room, Brant, because that's one of these spots that it's like it needs monitoring, right? Everybody went out to the waiver this week and tried to grab the next guy up for the Rams, because we've seen their wideouts be super electric in the past. So the question at hand is, Brant, which of the three that are kind of out there do you think it is? Is it Demarcus Robinson, who in week 2 had a 92% snap share, 4 targets, 2 receptions for 50 yards? Was it Tyler Johnson, who had an 87% snap share with 3 targets, 2 receptions for 20 yards? Or is it the rookie Jordan Wethington, who had a 50% snap share in week 2, 2 targets, 2 receptions, 22 yards? Who do you think's the guy moving forward?
So Robinson looked like the clear cut. He looked like the favorite. But I think there might be one guy, I'm going to check this up. I think there might be one guy that a lot of people are actually sleeping on, who's been in that offense for a little bit, for a few years now, and that is Tutu Atwell.
Yeah.
He did only see 19%. But he's been in that offense, for 4 years now. He's played with Stafford. I think this could be the low-key guy to own. He has had flashes when Kupp was out last year. I believe it was at the beginning of the year. Cooper Kupp missed time. 8 targets, 9 targets, 9 targets, 9 targets when Cooper Kupp missed the first 4 weeks of the season. So he's been the guy, and I think he's going to run from that spot. I could see that. I could see Tutu Atwell being the guy that gets peppered. I could see, big plays for a couple of the other guys, but I think Tutu Atwell is actually the guy that should probably be owned because most of the other names are probably gone. So I like Tutu Atwell.
Yeah, I did leave Tutu out just because of the snap discrepancy. I figured one of these 3 was probably the next man up. For me, it's Demarcus Robinson. Week 1 with Puka Nacua on the field, with Cooper Kupp on the field, he had 7 targets. It did drop down a little bit in week 2. But listen, I think part of this too was the Cardinals offense came out and punched, the Rams right in the mouth right off the rip. And, I think that probably played a decent part in what we saw out of that Rams offense as well. But and let's be honest, Kyron Williams and Blake Corum are definitely going to get a little extra run out of that backfield. Probably Colby Parkinson's another name I didn't bring up that I could have that will probably get some extra work. But I think the problem with these Rams wide receivers, Brant, is first of all, you're going to see this illusion of whichever one of these guys it is going to come out and have a good game this week. One of the 3 of them or 4 of them, even Tutu, will have a good game, and people are going to be trying to trade for them, trade them away, sell high. And I just don't know if it's something I can believe, because I don't know if any of these guys have the talent, I guess, to produce week in and week out the way Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp do. Now, I will say, based on talent alone, I think Jordan Whittington has a chance to be something special during this stretch, the rookie. But Demarcus Robinson's the one that I have. That if I had to own all of them are out there and available, that's the one I'm going after, Brant.
Okay, absolutely.
All right, let's talk about the other one that's pressing that everybody's trying to figure out here is the Chiefs' backfield, right? With Isaiah Pacheco heading to the IR. You have Clyde Edwards-Helaire on the PUP, so he's kind of out of the picture for a couple more weeks at this point. So here I've got some names written down on this one as well. Kareem Hunt just signed to the practice squad. Obviously, a guy who's had some success in that offense with Andy Reid, familiarity with it as well. Keontae Ingram was signed to the active roster. Samaje Perine was there with 14 snap percent last week, Grant, 0 carries, 1 target, 1 reception for 3 yards for Mr. Perine. And then the rookie Carson Steele, who had a 22% snap share with 7 carries, 24 yards, but no passes or no targets out of the backfield. What's your take on this Kansas City Chiefs backfield?
I think it's a huge committee. And if you want to own one, I think it's Carson Steele. They showed that they had faith in him after the fumble issues early. So I think it's Carson Steele's the runner. I think Samaje P. Ryan is the pass catcher in the first week. I think you may. If I have a deep roster and I have a chance to stash Hunt, I'm probably going to stash him. But I think if I have to plug and play one in, I think I'm going to go with Carson Steele.
Am I crazy to question in leagues that are a little bit deeper and maybe he's out there and available? Is it crazy to say, hey, maybe there's some life to be had for CEH when he comes off the pup because of how good he can be at times? He's going to be fresh. Like, am I crazy to think that, or is it? I mean,
absolutely not. You're 2 weeks away from that, and then we saw Keontae Ingram be relevant a couple. Was it last year, maybe the year before? But I don't think you're crazy at all. CEH is a great guy to go stash. He's already familiar with the offense. He was a first round draft pick, so absolutely.
Yeah, and I do, Brant. I think there's a probability that it's probably Carson Steele. I did watch a decent amount of that game, and he did have that fumble. So I was nervous about that because you fumble on an Andy Reid offense, you take the ball away from Patrick Mahomes and give it to somebody like the Bengals. How much is Andy Reid going to let you continue with that? But I tend to align myself more with the Carson Steele side of things as well. Again, if he's out there, I think he's got to be rostered. Wouldn't you guess, Brant?
Absolutely. Almost anybody needs to be rostered in that backfield if you think about it, because you never know. But I definitely, Carson Steele is definitely the guy that I'm looking at.
I do want to go back to this Clyde Edwards-Helaire thing for just a second, because there's been no updates on him for several days, but he did go on the NFI list, because it was a mental health issue. So he may not rush back too. So we'll stick with Carson Steele as the guy to own. So, okay. So again, whatever your flag plan is on the Rams, and then wherever your flag plan is on the Chiefs is the guys you expect. Are those guys you're willing to go trade for, Brant? Or if you can't get them off waivers, are you saying, I'll stick with what I got?
I'll stick with what I got. Unless I'm desperate to fill in, I'm sticking with what I got. I just can't bring myself to go trade for those guys.
Okay. And then since we're on the subject, I want to bring this up too, because I had somebody who you and I both know who does tune into the show pretty regularly, also tunes in Sundays, message me tonight and ask me if I would trade my CMC away to get Garrett Wilson in a redraft league. What's your thoughts on that, Brant? Are you moving CMC at this point for Garrett Wilson?
So I'd like to see what the rest of the roster around it is. Do you have two great running backs?
I can tell you what the roster is.
Okay.
You can keep working through your thoughts.
So my thing is if Jordan Mason keeps doing just fine, they're not going to rush CMC back. There's no reason. You have the best running back in football. Why rush him back? Jordan Mason's doing just fine. Get him 100%, bring him back for that playoff push. Now, if they struggle like they did this past week against Minnesota, you may be thinking differently. And missing Debo. I think I would actually probably make that trade pending on how the rest of my roster looked.
Okay, so running back wise, he's got James Conner, Ramondre Stevenson, Brian Robinson,
excuse me,
and Zach Charbonnet and Jalen Warren. Wide receiver wise, he has Chris Olave, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Scary Terry, Demarcus Robinson. He did have Puka Nacua, obviously, who went to the IR already. So
I'm absolutely making that trade because I have three backs that are getting so many carries right now. Then you're going to give me Garrett Wilson and Puka Nacua right as I make that push late in the season. I absolutely would make that trade.
So I said no, Brant, and I'm glad you said yes, because I would love to have some dialogue about this. I said no, and my reasoning behind it is it feels like CMC's dead weight right now because you drafted him high and you haven't got to play him. However, Garrett Wilson, who I've been a fan of since he was drafted into the league out of Ohio State. I love Garrett Wilson. I went and did a deep dive into this because it was just like, on the surface, it sounds like a no-brainer, slam dunk. You got to do it, right? Currently, Garrett Wilson is wide receiver 34 overall. That's with 2 games of Aaron Rodgers. He had 14 points week 1 and 12 points week 2. If you go back in the history of Garrett Wilson's time in the league, his best finish in PPR leagues is 21. Okay. So my rationale for not giving up CMC is you may suffer through the first couple of weeks of not having him, but when he comes back, is Garrett Wilson going to score more points week in and week out, or is CMC? A healthy CMC is going to be a league winning back. We've not seen that out of Garrett Wilson. Every year we come into the NFL world, we think this is a year we see Garrett Wilson. He's got Aaron Rodgers that takes off. He's going to have good targets instead of all these, quarter targets from Zach Wilson and, the checkout boy that got fired from Toys R Us because the place went bankrupt. You know what I'm saying? And it's been one of these evolving situations where it's similar to the Kyle Pitts and Drake London thing. We keep waiting for it to happen, and then we stay disappointed. Eventually, we got to get off of that name value. And again, I love Garrett Wilson. I drafted him in a couple startup dynasty leagues this summer, Brant. So it's one of those things I'm still hopeful for. But when we're talking CMC and Garrett Wilson, now my advice was I would love to see Garrett Wilson on this roster, but maybe try to trade one of those other backs if you can hold out and wait for CMC to come back. But same logic you said, CMC healthy, Puka Nacua healthy down the stretch is pretty also tasty also.
Yeah, absolutely. If you can make that deal, then absolutely. But like I said, I in my mind, I think Garrett Wilson and Rodgers are knocking off the rust. I know it's 14-12, but I think they're knocking off the rust. I got a feeling that's going to end up taking flight here shortly. I know it's been a rough first 2 weeks, but we always say your high draft picks, give them those first 3 weeks before you really hit the panic button. And I think this is the week that he does take off against New England. Unfortunately, it's on Thursday. I really wish that was a Sunday game, just because to give them that little more rest, a little more work together. But I could see this taking off this week. So if you could trade a different back, absolutely. I still think I would make that deal because, like I said, I don't see them rushing CMC back.
Okay. All right. So there you go. We're split on that one for sure. All right. Let's talk about a big problem we have going on right now, Brant. And it's just one that it irks me. Okay. We have a tight end dilemma in the National Football League this year. Last year, we had all these guys coming in, lighting the world on fire. Everybody was putting up massive amount of points right off the get-go. And just one of those years. And this year, it's from the tight end position. Okay. Tight end one, Brant, is Isaiah Likely, which we talked about a little bit. He was god-awful week 2. He is the beneficiary of a massive week 1 performance and then nothing. So let me take you through the top 3 tight ends this year at this point in just regular basic PPR leagues. Isaiah Likely is number 1, 11 receptions, 137 yards, 1 touchdown. That's gross. We have wide receivers doing that. We have wide receivers doing that every week. Number 2 is Brock Bowers, 15 receptions, 156 yards, 0 touchdowns. George Kittle in 3rd place, 11 receptions, 116 yards receiving, 1 touchdowns. Now let's go way down that list to other notable tight ends, Brant. Mark Andrews, who was drafted way in front of Isaiah Likely, tight end 14, 6 receptions, 65 yards, 0 touchdowns. Tight end 16, the number 1 tight end off the board in most dynasty leagues this year, Sam Laporta, 6 receptions, 58 yards. Number 21, top 5 guy that went off the board in dynasty startups this year, Dalton Kincaid, 5 receptions, 44 yards. And then you go almost all the way to the bottom of the list, and the guy who's probably still taken number 1 in dynasty or in redraft leagues, Travis Swift at 28, Travis Kelce, 4 receptions for 39 yards. Brent, what the hell is going on with the tight end position?
I'm not sure. Better linebackers this year, I honestly don't know. Nobody's using the tight ends. I mean, you're talking – your number 2 guy has what was it? You had 15 receptions. He's got 17 targets. So, I mean, he's catching them all there, but it's just no touchdowns. I guess people are starting to strategically take out the tight end. I mean, think about it. Hunter Henry's at number 5, and he scored 4 points in week 1, 23 in week 2 against Seattle. Like, that's what it is. You've got that boom week, and they're up there. But if you remember, last year's tight end 1 through this time was Hunter Henry because of 2 bomb weeks. So we're just not seeing that. It's just, I think the tight end level is starting to become a little more level, and it's just going to be they're going to level out. It's going to be back to the way it was, where they're not league winners anymore. I just don't see them being league winners.
So is this one of those things, Brant, that we're, for a lot of years, those of us that did, you and I have always kind of done redrafts as well as dynasties, but in redraft aspects, sometimes you punt on that quarterback position because the discrepancies aren't there. You got your group of people that go way too early on quarterbacks and your people that go way too late. And it's, like this year, you probably waited forever. And if you got Baker Mayfield, you're sitting in a lot better shape than somebody who drafted Patrick Mahomes in the second round. Okay. But is the tight end position evolving into that? Are we getting to that point where tight ends are no longer going to be hot commodities in fantasy, where you don't rush out to go get these guys in drafts and you just start streaming the position every week? Is that what you think is going to happen?
Most redrafts, that's how I've always kind of been like that, because I don't want to draft them too high. But I do think that that's it. I mean, let's think about it. What was it? Week 1, Isaiah Likely was tight end 1. And then Hunter Henry was tight end 1 this past week. I could be wrong on the name. But still, I mean, I think you're going to get a boom guy, and you got to look at the matchups and see how that's going to be. And it could definitely be a streaming position for redrafts. Now, if you're lucky in dynasties and you do have the Brock Bowers, the George Kittles, the Trey McBrides, those guys are a little more consistent. They're not gonna blow up. I mean, they may have the chance to blow up, but they're still gonna see their 2 or 3 receptions every week and 40 yards, and maybe they'll fall in an end zone. But they're never gonna be. I don't think you're really ever gonna see a real league winner like Travis Kelce again. I don't want to say again right now.
Okay. So week 2, Hunter Henry finished as tight end 2. Trey McBride was number 3. Excuse me. He was tight end number 1 overall. Sorry. Tight end number 1 overall, Hunter Henry. George Kittle was number 2. So there you go.
And Kittle right now is the tight end to own in my mind, with Debo out, CMC out. So you have Juwan Jennings, Brandon Ayuk, and you have one of the greatest yak tight ends in history. George Kittle in my mind is the tight end to own right now. I think he finishes top 3 until we see some of those guys come back.
Yeah, and again, that's another one of those spots that it's like, Ricky Pearsall. Everybody was talking about all these wide receivers, Ricky Pearsall, Brandon Ayuk, Debo Samuel, all these guys were going to come in and put up these massive numbers this year, and it was kind of like, it's Kittle. And you're right, CMC's out right now. Somebody's got to be catching passes, and it's going to be a lot of Kittle moving forward. I'm interested though, Brant. Do you think Mark Andrews, Sam Laporta, Dalton Kincaid, Travis Kelce, are these guys still finishing inside the top 10 this year?
Mark Andrews, Dalton Kincaid, Travis Kelce,
and Sam Laporta.
I think Laporta and Kincaid still make it. Kelce, I think, will end up sneaking in there some way. I think he's going to be like 9 or 10. I don't know if Mark Andrews is. I just don't know if he's going to. You're starting to see with that Ravens offense. I know it's looked bad, and the team hasn't looked great. You're starting to see Rashad Bateman get targets. You're seeing Zay Flowers start to boom. You got Derrick Henry there. Maybe it's time for Mark Andrews to step back, and teams watch that week 1 film and go, that's how we beat Mark Andrews. Now we have to beat Lamar.
Well, which is interesting too, and I wonder if they're part of that same thing is teams playing the Chiefs are saying, hey, we're not going to let Kelce, beat us in these critical spots, and maybe they're taking Kelce away too. I don't know. It's interesting. Another name I want to say to bring up that I want to talk about too, with benefiting from injuries. I think there's a chance Mike Gesicki, which, listen, hey, I know that's an unpopular name because a lot of us have been waiting on that for years too, but I think Mike Gesicki's got a chance to break out there in Cincinnati this year. With T. Higgins' injury, Jamar Chase is mad at the world over his contract situation. It seems like there's no more Joe Mixon to be a super target hog in the backfield. I think there's a chance Mike Gesicki, if I was a streaming player, Brant, that might be one of those guys I went and tried to grab early and see. Let's just see how that shakes out over the course of the season.
Absolutely. Well, you and me talked about it preseason about how this could be a sneaky tight end to own. And he is. It's a great passing offense. And you got T. Higgins been banged up. You got Jamar Chase, like you said, pissed off at everybody. And Tyler Boyd's gone. So there's got to be a guy, and Burton hasn't looked like that guy like you and me both talked about and we hoped, and we drafted it in one of our leagues. Gesicki definitely is the guy to look at to step up.
Okay. All right, Brent, let's get into this underdog promo for this week. Again, Fantasy Holics does have a partnership with Underdog. You use the promo code Holics on your initial deposit. You get a ton of swag from that. Definitely well worth getting in there. You can get like well, it says it on the screen. Why listen to me tell you when you can just see it yourself? Here we go, Brant. All right, so the Underdog promo's got Fatboy Brant dancing here. All right, so Brant, go ahead and take me through your Underdog play of the week this week.
Underdog for Thursday night, our Thursday night play of the week. I'm going with Ramondre Stevenson over 16 rushing attempts, higher than 16 rushing attempts, 25 and 21 in his first 2 weeks. That's all I got to say, 25, 21. They didn't really go to Gibson in that Seahawks game until we started to cram the middle and force him to go outside. And I'm sorry, Gibson is a better outside runner, but they're going to lean on Ramondre Stevenson. So give me his higher than 16 rushing attempts for Thursday night. That is my favorite play on Thursday night.
Okay. All right. So for me, Thursday night, man, I can't really get that into that game. There is some stuff I like, but I think this is a dog walk. I think it is a dog walk for the Jets. I looked ahead to a game that I like quite a bit this week on Sunday, and that's Indianapolis versus Chicago. I've got Jonathan Taylor to go way higher than 75 or 73 and a half rushing yards that they've got him primed for. Listen, the Bears' run defense just really isn't that darn good this year. Both Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears, Brant, averaged over 5 yards a carry on that week 1 contest. Then this week, it didn't seem like it was that great because Joe Mixon really didn't get going all that well. Was kind of banged up, missed some time. Cam Akers, of all people, averaged 4.5 yards a carry against the Bears defense. What's Jonathan Taylor going to do, Brant? If he gets anywhere near that 5 yards per carry mark, what he's going to do is tote the rock 15 times. And not to mention, he's going to rip a few long ones off too. That's just what Jonathan Taylor does. He's going to have a 20-plus yard rush in there at some point. He smashes this. And that, listen, the Colts are 0-2. Anthony Richardson's passing looks abysmal. I think it's a pretty darn good indicator that you're going to see some big Jonathan Taylor weeks coming up in the next couple of weeks. I think that starts this week, Brant.
Okay, absolutely. I love that. So you're talking that game here. I'm going to tease one of my Sunday ones here, and that's in the same game. And I'm going with DeAndre Swift lower than 51 and a half rushing yards. I'm sorry. He's had 30 and 18, and you and me talked about this. He looked like dog poo over the first 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it. He just has not rushed the ball very well. So I'm going to take yours. I'm going to take my little tease here. I'm going to take my Thursday, and I'm going to drop it right now. We're going to put a little bit down on it and make Thursday night's game just a little more interesting.
Hey, listen, the NFL has done us right. We've been off to a great schedule to this point. I'm not going to complain much, or at least I'm going to try not to. Now, maybe tomorrow night when I'm sitting watching the game and it's like, I got to turn on like girls soccer at this point or something, for some entertainment. Then maybe at that point we start cussing the Thursday night games. But I'm not there yet. I'll be at girls basketball. So okay, there you go. All right, I think that does it for us on this week's episode, Brant. It's a short week. It's a short episode. We will be live Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern time. The Fatboyz will be here. We'll have our smiling faces ready for week 3. It feels like the season's already rolling through at a heavy steam. It's going to be over before you know it. Come get a little extra time with this fantasy football stuff with us on Sunday morning.
Absolutely. We'll see you guys Sunday. Start all your start sets, any of your trade questions, your food questions. We do love food questions because we love to talk about food. And as always, stay hungry.
Wait. Do not flex your Jets or your Patriots. Get them out of your flex spots. Put them in your
flex Thursday
starting spots. And as always, stay hungry and stay fat, my friends.